Let's take a look at the topic proposal for the argumentative or persuasive paper. Again, persuasion and argument, they are the same. Those words are basically interchangeable. So when we say the argumentative paper or the persuasive paper, we're basically talking the same thing. The topic proposal is your chance to sell me, your teacher, or whoever else that you might be writing this for at some point, to prove to them that I have an idea. I know what I want to do. Here's what I want to do, and here's how I'm going to do it. And this kind of walks you through the process of, what the topic is, how you're going to approach it, what you're going to use, and is also a way to kind of prove that, I have thought this through. It kind of forces you to look at some different pieces that you need to be aware of. So when you look at, it gives you some basic information at the top. And then here on the second page, this is where you would start working. And again, you can just hit enter and type in whatever you needed to type in that was new. You could wipe this out and restart it. You could start on a new page, number 1 blank, number 2 blank. Either one, any of those ways are fine. But these are the different things that you need to address and describe and explain when it comes to the topic that you wish to explore. So the first point is the working title of your paper. So this is where you are going to say, if you had this, this is my first title that I would use for this paper, right? This is just going to be a few words. Now remember, we've talked about this before. This isn't just argumentative paper or food desert or whatever it might be. This really is where we get to see kind of your, the first take on your topic. So instead of food desert, for instance, it might be how can cities provide food to those that live in food deserts? Or maybe it's, if you're talking about lunch shaming, we must stop lunch shaming now, or something along those lines. So the title is not just like what my paper is, but it really starts to give us a sense of where you're coming from. A working thesis statement, again, now the working title and the working thesis statement, they are subject to change. They might evolve and adapt and kind of, change over the course of time as you write the paper. Probably not significantly, but there will be some finessing to them. And the working thesis, this is your one-sentence statement of purpose that tells you, this is what I'm doing. It keeps you on track. But it tells the reader when they read it in the paper, this is what the topic is, this is what the paper is going to be about, and this is where the person is coming from. So it really starts to show us a lot of these elements. For our paper, the thesis statement will probably also have maybe not exactly stated the solution, but at least some hint that starts getting us thinking toward that. Point number 3, the target audience. Obviously, I will tell you what the audience is. It's people like you, adults like you that need to be aware of this topic. But when you think of that, you're going to want to take it the next step. What would make this something that they would need to know? Or why do they need to know? Or what makes that group of people specifically relatable to this topic, right? And so you're going to want to think broader, not just a group of my peers or the obvious what I tell you, but you're going to want to really start thinking through what makes this something that should be important to them. Number 4 is kind of an interesting point because I think this really gets to the heart of why you picked it. Now, again, it isn't so much that you do or don't have some connection to the topic, but it really makes you think about why you picked this. What was your topic? Now, again, it isn't that you can't use these connections in your paper, but it makes you aware of what those connections are, and in turn then allow you to see hey, this is where a bias may come in, right? I am too close to this, or this is related to some future career or something, right? And so it really makes you aware of that. Again, it doesn't mean you can or cannot use it in your paper necessarily, but it does make you aware of what drew you there, and so you don't allow that bias to come in. Why is this important to your audience? By the way, this is number 4 is going to be a paragraph in length. Okay, number 5 Why is this important to you and should be important to your audience? This is going to begin at least a paragraph again, right? So you want to make sure that you have the ability to explain what makes it important to somebody else. I think the example we've used before is breast cancer research, and guys who are statistically do not get breast cancer, statistically speaking, why are they so interested in this? And people have done a very good job of explaining, hey, this is what you need to know about how this impacts you, how this connects you, how it reaches you and your, you individually, right? What makes it important to you. And so people have really done that. You want to do that because you want to be able to understand why it's important to them, be able to explain that, but also that will help you draw that connection. And again, we've talked about how you really want your audience to be, you really want to show your audience how they are, how they should be interested in, aware of, and engaged in this topic. So number 5 is a paragraph. Number 6, what you want to do is, and we're going to talk a little bit about this in our Zoom class, about what other people have said about this. And you want to share the topic with other people, not just necessarily our classmates. You can use other people too. But what do other people say about this topic, right? What are some of the things that they have said, some of the ideas that they've shared with you? And we're going to take a look at how to do that in class. This will be a few sentences in length. And then number 7, this is where you will give us a list of the sources that you are considering using. And it will be in MLA style, since we're using MLA for this paper. This will be in MLA style. Now, you can use EasyBib for this. Okay, you can use EasyBib. I also showed you about how to access the Ivy Tech's library and the Academic Search Premier, and the citations are on those as well. You just copy and paste them, right? Here, this is where we see that you have already not just thought about the topic and have an idea of what you want to do and why you want to do it, but this shows us, okay, I've started to do some research. I know what's out there. I know there's enough information, and I know I have good information. In the end, as you write this proposal, there's 2 things I really want you to be thinking about. First off, this proposal is you selling other people on this topic. Okay, start with that. This is where you can say, here's a topic, here's why you should allow me to write this. Okay. And you really have to approach it in that sense, because that shows, like number 7, the works cited. That shows I've already done some research. I've already got a start on this, and I know what the topic is about, and I know that there's sources out there for me. When you say, this is why this should be important to you, or you say, this is my thesis statement, what you're really saying is, I have a plan, and I know what I want to do, right? And you want to convince other people that this is something that we should allow you to do. If you take all those pieces together and you put those things into a document, this really forces you to do a lot of that pre-planning work. And we've talked about how it, why it's so important, right? That you know what you want to do. Here's my purpose. Here's my audience. How am I going to connect this audience to this topic, right? And so now, because you've gone through these steps, because you have thought this through, because you have plans and ideas, and you've taken those first steps, what this does is this puts you in a better place to be able to start this paper, because you've done a lot of that pre-planning. You know what you want to do. Now you have a path to follow.